Everyone dreams about living an uncommon life, but how we define that dream is very different for each of us. And for most, it's a lifelong pursuit. Welcome to the Uncommon Life Project podcast. We're going to introduce you to people who are living that life or enjoying the journey to get there. We're going to also give you some tools, tricks, and tips for starting or accelerating your own efforts to live an uncommon life, a life worth celebrating and savoring. Please welcome your hosts, Bryan Dewhurst and Phillip Ramsey.
Welcome to the Uncommon Life Project. I'm your host, Phillip Ramsey.
And I'm Bryan Dewhurst.
Thank you so much, Holly, for that wonderful intro. Every time is spot on. We have an amazing guest for you today. His name is Brett Appleton, and he is one of the coolest guys you'll meet. We get those kind of people on the show. He went to University of Iowa as a graduate of business. He's been in retail, he's been in banking, and now he's currently in mortgages. And by the time this airs, he'll be married to the love of his life, Kenzie. Welcome to the show, Brett.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on. Really excited. Love talking about this stuff and love what you guys do.
So what he's talking about is Airbnb. The reason why we reached out to Brett is because he is an Airbnb ninja. That's what we're going to call him today. We want to talk through the transaction, and what I get so excited about is he wasn't really thinking that he would ever get into real estate. And once he's got the itch, now he's got two properties and they're both Airbnb. So we want to talk a little bit about each one of those transactions. And we want to dive into the numbers of why this is profitable and how he got into it. I think he also shares a really cool perspective because he is a mortgage. That's what he does every day, is help people get mortgages. And so maybe a little bit of pearls or nuggets that he can tell people of how they can get into something like this and get their feet wet in real estate. So first question, let's just start at the University of Iowa. You're a Hawkeye. Did you ever think when you were in college that you wanted to come out and have real estate as part of your investment portfolio?
Not at all. It started out as more of, hey, I want to obviously have a house, just like everybody else has that dream of having a house. My idea was, hey, maybe I'll grab a couple roommates and they'll help pay my mortgage, save a little money. That was pretty much my goal out of college. And it definitely spun into something that I never thought I'd be excited about and love to do. And it's been a lot of fun.
Flash forward, his future is that he would just own a portfolio of these Airbnbs and rentals, and that would be his whole income. In this.
Like 3 to 5 year goal.
Yeah, but I think that's interesting, going from I'm never going to do it. So there's a reason why, right? So let's flash forward. You've gone through a couple jobs. Were you renting at that time when you decided, like, I want to get into the real estate?
Yeah, so obviously, every kid comes out of college and is like, I want to get a house and do all this stuff. Well, then life hits you in the face and you realize, I've got bills, I've got this. I can't save up this much money for a down payment and all this other stuff. And so, go by 5 years and you're like, okay, got, my girlfriend at the time, now is my fiance, going to be a wife by the time this airs. And I said, let's get a house, let's start doing this. Like I said, I always had the idea of saying, hey, let's get a couple roommates. Well, what girl wants to move in and get a couple roommates right away? So
not awesome.
Yeah. So she wasn't really excited about that. So then I started thinking, okay, how can I do this? So I thought, hey, how about a duplex? Let's get something. We'll have renters on the other side, help pay the mortgage. And she was on board. So we started looking at that. And then at the time, her father was actually started doing Airbnb in Altoona, which is a little suburb just outside of Des Moines. Yeah. And we saw the amount of money he was making. And I was like, he's in Altoona. Like, how is he making that much money?
Who wants to be in Altoona?
Yeah. And so then we started looking at the numbers.
Man.
And we were just like, wow, okay. And I was a little, to be honest, talk about the nerves. I was like, I don't know about this. I didn't know the numbers. I didn't look at and say, hey, how much are people making? I like the idea of having residual income every single month from a full-time renter. And
kind of the old way.
Yeah, the old way of always looking at, hey, this is a great investment, get into it and you're done.
Yeah.
And Kenzie, bless her heart, was really kind of like, let's give it a try. So I said, all right, even if we try for 6 months and it doesn't work out, okay, we still have a full-time renter. And so then we got into it, and it was probably the best decision we've ever made.
Yeah, and I think that is it's a low barrier entry once you get the property. why not try it? Like you can always like, well, let's go a different route. What are the pros and cons versus a full-time renter, steady renter versus Airbnb? Like, let's go to the pros of having just a straight renter every month. It's consistency.
Yeah.
Chances are there's going to be a lease that's signed.
Yeah, you don't, and then I say with full-time renters, you don't really have to worry about it. You pretty much set it, hopefully for 12 months. Maybe every once in a while you have to fix something like that. You don't have to touch the property. You shouldn't have to worry about it. As long as they're paying the rent, you just kind of leave it alone. That's the pros. It's minimal work, decent, steady flow of cash flow.
Yep.
Cons, what if they trash it? What if they're bad renters?
Squatters.
Yeah. What if they don't pay their rent? And in Iowa, we have weird laws when it comes to people kicking them out, get them out of there, all that stuff. So there's just there's definitely pros and definitely cons. With the Airbnb, the cons are you don't know when your next booking is going to come.
There you go.
It's a little bit more money up front. You got to pay for beds. You got to pay for extra furniture. You got to pay for all of the dishes. You've got to pay for.
It's fully furnished.
It's fully furnished.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking towels, paper towels, toilet paper.
Great point.
Everything. So it's a little bit more money up front.
Investment.
Yeah, it's a little more investment up front. Just to give you an idea, the house we just bought, it took right around.
This is your second house.
Yeah, second house. Sorry, for the
Yep.
second house. Because the first house I didn't keep as track of well because it's the first one. And
Right.
the second one I kept a lot better track, and we dropped about $5,000 in furniture. So you're talking a little more investment than the regular guy
Sure.
when he goes and just says, "Hey, I'm gonna have a full-time renter." They bring in their own furniture and you're done.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit different in that aspect.
Now, also the pros is that you can change basically the rate and whenever you want. Now, unless you have a person that's going to stay there for 3 months and you had that as your first Airbnb.
Yep.
But for the most part, you can be like kind of a hotel where you can change the rates. Like let's say there's a big venue coming on or coming up. You might be able to bump those rates up. So that's a plus. I would say maybe the negatives is that you have to clean it more.
Yep. There's a little more time aspect there when you have to pull sheets, do laundry, get your clean. If you don't have a cleaning lady, which we do, lovely, she's absolutely amazing. So that's the downside is a little bit more time of your own spent taking care of the property.
Can we go backwards?
Yeah.
Oh man, we're doing it.
Because I think you hit on something that's really important. Had you and Kinsey stayed at an Airbnb before you considered this?
Actually, we hadn't.
You had
not.
Had not.
You had not.
I had
Okay.
never stayed at Airbnb. Like I said, her father had done it and had really good experience. And he kind of walked us through the vetting process of how they let people stay there, because
Sure.
it's strangers. People aren't
Yeah.
used to saying, I'm going to open my home up to some stranger to come stay for 2 days out of the week.
Yeah.
He had a proven process.
The reason I asked this is it seems like a lot of people have stayed at an Airbnb, but it's almost a foreign concept to open their own home up to Airbnb. It seems like there's a barrier there. So anyway, I just wanted to hit on that.
Yeah. Very much so. I
So
know
what's his process? I got to talk to because that's going to be important for our listeners who are thinking about getting into this. What is his process to make sure he's getting good people to come into his Airbnb?
Yeah,
Your process.
Yeah, the nice thing is Airbnb or whether you use another website is VRBO.
Mhm.
A lot of people use that as well.
Are you on both?
I just do Airbnb now.
Okay.
And I can talk about that too. Why I chose one or the other from my side. But there's both. You can put both. You're on there and you get bookings from both sides. Nice thing is they do all of the processing for you. So I don't have to worry about payments. I don't take credit card numbers. I don't hold the deposit. I don't hold any of that money myself. I just get paid. And they do all the background checks.
But that costs money, right? A percentage of what? And what is that?
Yep, it's right around 8 to 10%.
Okay.
Which
It's healthy.
which is healthy from their side. They take about 8% from me, and then they also have a fee that gets added on to the renter side. So they're taking a little bit of cut from both, and then they have a little payment processing fee or something like that. But it's about 8 to 10%.
Gotcha. Wait, I want to go back to the process.
Oh, the process.
Go to the process.
So like I said, is a lot of them get vetted through Airbnb. So I myself, I don't have to look up any of their information. I don't have to do background checks. I don't have to do credit checks. Whereas kind of a con of sometimes when you own that rental property is you have a renter who applies to stay at your place. I don't know what their work history is. I don't know what their, do they have good credit? Do they pay their bills? They do all this stuff. So you may have to do a light credit pull on somebody. You may have to, hey, give me work references. Hey, so you have to do a little bit more upfront work.
Sure.
With Airbnb, I have so far trusted them to do that background check for me, and it's worked out very well. That
and they have filters, right?
Yeah,
like you can kind of like set the parameters of people you're willing to accept.
And also, I think another safety net is that you rate them, they rate you. So you can see maybe if somebody has a history of trashing things, you will know. Now, if they don't have any history of Airbnb and they're coming in, that's also a risk.
Yeah, it's definitely a risk. And I have the ability to decline somebody if I want. If I feel like, hey, I looked at some of their reviews, or they have 0 reviews, they just became a member 2 weeks ago, and they're asking to come, hey, I want to look at your house before I come stay.
Yeah.
Those type of things kind of are red flags for me to say, no, I'm not doing that. Or
now, how does that process go? Is there a liability to you if you say no, or do you just, we're busy? Or how does that?
Different people, I'll just straight up say, hey, no, we don't allow people to come beforehand. Pictures show it. If you want to know more information, let me know. And that weeds out a lot of people. There's not many people that try to come back at me.
Yeah.
I've only had a couple instances where you can definitely tell it was some sort of scammer.
Sure.
Somebody saying, hey, I want to send you a personal check.
Yeah.
And
which is a big no-no.
Which is a big no-no. It's all credit cards, debit cards. You have to payment process that way because they have to verify
they
have to verify that that's a real credit card, that you're a real person, and that they can process that payment. And so for me, that I like that side of being able to protect myself, as well as, like I said, that they hold a deposit for me. So if I ever have something wrong, something gets broken, something's bad, I can make a claim through Airbnb to say, hey, I want to get reimbursed for this, and then there's a process involved with that for me getting reimbursed for my stuff getting broken. Unlike full-time renters, you hold the deposit, then you're responsible for getting that back to them and all that stuff. That's handled by Airbnb. Airbnb takes care of getting them back a deposit if I don't make a claim, all that stuff.
Okay, VRBO versus Airbnb.
I became a fan of Airbnb. Number one, I started getting more bookings from Airbnb. I don't know if it was just more popular in this area. Number two was VRBO has an option where they allow you to pay up front for a full year's prescription to their website. So for me, when I was running both, I first started, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get enough bookings to make it worth my investment to pay your upfront full year.
Yeah.
So I decided to do just, hey, I'll pay a percentage, just like Airbnb does. And then maybe the next year I'll look at doing the full year prescription. And then I was doing that full year and I was still getting more Airbnb, a few VRBO. And then they came back to me at such a time and they said, hey, you're not doing enough bookings. You either have to pay your prescription or we're cutting you off.
Wow.
Jeez.
And I said, well,
okay,
all right, well, this made my decision very easy. So I've just been doing Airbnb ever since. And
what was that fee for the VRBO?
It was, it's been going up. At the time it was like $450, which
that's significant,
which isn't too bad.
Right.
But
you'll get it over a year.
But yeah, you look over a year, it was like, okay, I'll probably get my money back.
Right.
But if I continue to get all Airbnb, who's only taking the 8 to 10% versus paying $400 and not getting my investment back to say, hey, this is now saving me money.
Yeah, I see it both ways. But yeah, I see that's good. All right, so let's go to numbers. I want to know the numbers. First transaction, you go in. What kind of house were you looking at? What kind of ballpark?
Yeah, we were looking at a duplex, and we wanted to stay somewhere below 175.
Okay.
Which now in the Des Moines market would probably be very hard to do.
Yeah.
It's just been going up and up and up. And so we got with a real estate agent. I'd never bought a house before, so that's a whole other process that if you know any sort of knowledge,
Go there. You can go there. We know where you're going.
I believe you can buy it yourself.
Yes. Okay.
So that's my personal opinion. I felt like the person that I did it with, great guy, really does a good job. For somebody who doesn't know how to do that process, go get a real estate agent. They'll help you. They can do all that. Somebody who has some sort of idea, try it yourself, save yourself some money. Anyways.
Save the buyer money.
Yeah, save the buyer money.
And the seller money, right? It's everyone's saving.
Yeah, all that stuff. So anyways, so we started looking, and we found the house ourselves. I was just, doing a lot of research, found this one, and it only had pictures on the outside. So I was like, I just want to go look at this. It was in our price range. It was priced right at about $165. Said, all right, let's go take a look. And we got to take a look at it. And the downstairs, it was like that moment where we both walked in and we're like, we love it. We love it. It had like the hardwood floors, the fireplace,
And were you were thinking about Airbnb at this point? Okay.
Yeah, at this point, we're already on like, hey, this is what we're going to try to do. Okay. This is our plan. And so we looked at it and we're like, tile floors in the kitchen. It wasn't like last 5 years, but it was still tile in the kitchen and the bathroom, and everything was pretty painted nice. And we're like, okay, this is awesome. Go upstairs. It hadn't been touched in 10 years. So, still hardwood floors, still a lot of the character, still all this stuff, but
outdated.
Yes. So those renters that were upstairs were leaving. So they knew that was going to be open. So it was perfect for us because we wanted somewhere to live. The renters downstairs were on month to month. That was also perfect for us.
Sure.
So started going through a couple different processes of kind of a long story, but tried to do like a renovation loan. Process took too long. It was not a great experience. And so we went away from that. Eventually got some help from Kenzie's parents to say, hey, this is how much money we have. We want to get to 20% down because we're tired of doing these construction loans. And then we're going to use our own money to do the renovations. They loaned us the money, the 20% down. We went to that transaction, and over this renovation loan, about 4-month process. It was really long and aggravating, but we finally got the house. So right away we go in, redo the hardwood floors, paint all the rooms, do just a bunch of different stuff on the upstairs.
Sweat equity.
Yep. A lot of that stuff. And then had to tell the downstairs renters that we're not going to extend you a lease, which was also a tough conversation because the sellers had told them they were. Anyways, okay. So that was a tough conversation. But anyways, so we get them out, and we finally got it open. We closed in August and finally got it up after we got the renters out and everything in about October for
what
opened up
year
Airbnb.
was this? Sorry.
2016.
Okay, so you're 3 years in. Or 2 years in.
2 years in, yeah. We're just about a full 2 years in. So got it up going October of 18. Now, backtrack a little bit. When we knew we were buying a duplex and doing Airbnb, we started knowing, hey, we're going to need 2 sets of everything because we have this duplex.
Yeah.
So we started going Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, just collecting furniture for months. And the only thing we bought new was beds. And sheeting and that stuff. Everything else is used.
Yeah.
You know it's going to get used. You know it's going to get. There's no point in spending. You could easily spend $20,000 on new furniture.
Sure.
And it's just going to get used for Airbnb.
Can we frame in real briefly where your house is? This is Des Moines, Iowa.
Yep.
Next to Drake University.
Yep. It's about Drake runs right off of 31st Street, 30th Street. I'm just off 39th. Gotcha. So I'm just down the street.
But you're sandwiched between downtown and the university. Very similar, I think, in a lot of other cities.
Yep. And one thing that we loved was just kind of what's around it. There's a grocery store 2 blocks away, coffee shop right there. The library bar, which if anybody knows is known for their nachos.
Sure.
They're right down the street. Get 2 gas stations on the corners, really close to the interstate. All those things kind of came to mind when we're thinking, okay, somebody coming from out of state, what do they need? What do they need when they stay for Airbnb? What would we like if we stayed for Airbnb?
Sure.
So those aspects kind of came to place where we wanted to be.
Like a little experience.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So sorry, back to the numbers.
Yep.
We ended up getting the house for $155.
Wow.
Which we thought was a really good deal.
Yeah.
Put somewhere around $14,000 into it.
Okay.
That's not crazy.
No, which was redoing the hardwood floors, painting. We redid the kitchen. We did tile floor in the upstairs kitchen. redid a bathroom a little bit, stuff like that. So we put about 14 grand of our own money in it.
So you're 169,
Yeah.
which is under the 175 that you wanted to be.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. So, and after all this stuff, we also did a backyard renovation last year, which was part paid by the business, but total we're probably about 174, 173 in.
Okay.
Today's market, I did kind of a little bit of market analysis. We probably could sell it upwards of 2 for the amount of rent you could get for it, the state it's in, all that stuff.
How much Airbnb income are you getting from that?
So that particular property, last year, we did right around 30,000.
Okay. But monthly, what? So break that down.
So in monthly, it's kind of hard because of the fact that the summer months are so busy. I mean, Iowa weather, the summertime is your busiest time. So I may make $4,000 in the summer. I may make 4,500. I may make 2,500. The winter months, I may make 500. I may make 1,000.
Okay.
But the overall aspect is, you don't spend the money that you haven't. You have to stand out through it. So last year we did right about 30, which was
amazing.
Which that would handle your mortgage.
Oh, very
just
much
say
so.
that.
Way over what I thought I would make. And we live for free. I haven't paid a mortgage since we've lived there.
Yeah.
So I did the numbers. If we just rent our downstairs, let's say we rented that full time, we lived upstairs. At the top end, we probably get $1,200 a month. So you're talking a lot more money.
Oh yeah.
Compared to what we would do if we just rented out full time.
Yeah.
So that's been huge. So fast forward, we've been able to buy another property. Another numbers to give you for this year so far between bookings that have already stayed and that have already booked, we're at just hit the $40,000 mark.
Between the two
for the year.
Holy cow. And you're halfway through.
And we're halfway through.
Wow.
Now that's people that some have already booked. Yeah. After August, I have one booking.
Sure.
So I still have room. So I have a lot of open dates.
That may or may not get full.
May not get full.
Honest,
it may or may not.
So it's not a true conversion of double what you're making now.
Yep.
And that's what you're
Yep. My goal is to hopefully hit the 50,000 mark by the end of the year.
For both.
Between the both of them.
Okay.
Now let's talk, because I don't want to make this there's expenses.
Very much so.
So let's talk about the other side of the ledger, because you said it is more than a traditional rental.
It's a little more time consuming. I did the numbers. On average, we spend about 12 hours a month our own time, which
not crazy.
Which isn't crazy at all. I mean, to make that much extra money, spend 12 hours a month. I mean, I'm doing the basic things that anybody would do if they owned a house: mow the lawns, making sure everything's kept up, doing laundry, that type of stuff. What saves us a ton of time is we have a cleaning lady. Like I said, she's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
She actually used to work in the hotels. She'll even do little designs with the toilet paper.
Yeah, I get it.
And so she's just, she's just awesome. And so, we first found her on Facebook, and she's been great. And then, so we, after we got our when we started getting our second property, I just said, hey, you let me know what you want, what it's going to take to do the new house as well.
Good.
Because all I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on as a cleaning fee. So just let you know, through Airbnb, you can put on a cleaning fee.
Right.
Okay. So I'm literally, any money I make for my cleaning fee gets passed on to her. It's the same cost.
Sure.
And so I just said, hey, what would you take you to clean this? I'm going to put that as my cleaning fee. It's going to get passed on to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so she gave me a number, and it was reasonable. And so we've just been with ever since. And so she does both properties for us now. And
you don't want to promote her because you don't.
That too. But I mean, she does do a few other homes. Since we got her, she now does my soon-to-be father-in-law's house. When he does Airbnb, he now has picked her up, and she does a few other houses. But she works a lot of mornings. So then during the afternoon, she just, I tell her, hey, here's keys, go in. And get it. So, yes, back to the expenses. So I have the cleaning lady, not only, but, we also have extra set of sheets for every bed. So for our current house, there's 4 beds. We've got 8 sets of sheets just for that house. The new house, we've got 5 queen beds, a full bed, and a bunk bed. And we've got extra set of sheets for all those. So you're talking 12 sets of sheets. So there's an expense there. There's expense for towels. You know, we make a Costco run once a month to get paper towels, toilet paper, that type of stuff. But the initial investment, like I said, was about $5,000 for the new house. Outside of that, everything the business is able to pay for.
Let's talk about how you finance that second house.
Okay.
Come on.
Yeah. So we are, we bought it as a primary residence because we do flip-flop a little bit. We'll stay there sometimes. We'll stay at our other house. So we bought it as a primary residence. The mortgage programs right now, go to your local credit unions, find out what you can do. We're able to do an in-house loan, 100% financing. I didn't put a single dollar down.
Wow.
So what they do is they do a 90, what's called a 90-10. A 90 on the front side, home equity with 10% on the back side. And it technically got 2 payments.
Yep.
Obviously paying for a wedding, all that stuff, we didn't have a lot of money.
Sure.
A ton of money to put 20% down. So we were able to go in there. I got the sellers to cover a good portion of the closing cost and pay for a couple upgrades. So at the closing table, I walked away with a $3,000 check.
Thank you for letting me buy your house.
Yes. So I put no money down, paid nothing for closing, and walked away with a $3,000 check to do some upgrades to the house because we wanted new carpet, things like that.
Yeah.
So we walked out with no money down, all this stuff. Now I got, a couple mortgages, things like that, and very competitive rates. Like I said, I'm in the mortgage business. I looked at the rates, looked at the products. It's better than most of the big banks can do.
Sure.
The reason they can do that is they're in-house financing. They're holding on that loan. They're not selling it off.
Right.
So they can hold that. So then we started doing the same thing as we did with the first house. Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, friends, family, get all the furniture we can.
Yep.
Anybody who's going to be doing this, do not go out and buy new. We've got free couches before. We've got a couch set for $50 that's in great shape. Tables, silverware, all that stuff. The only thing we usually buy brand new is the beds. I ethically don't think it's right for somebody for somebody to sleep on a mattress that's been slept on for the last 5 years.
Bed bugs.
Yeah, bed bugs, all that stuff, and then brand new sheets, towels.
Yeah,
that type
nice
of stuff.
stuff.
Nice stuff. Doesn't have to be the top of the line, but just something somebody's like, hey,
wow,
it's hotel quality or it's above.
Sure.
And so those are the things. And I said it's just a little over $5,000 is what we put into it of my own money.
Jeez. How much scrutiny would the banks get to make that your primary residence? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what do you have to do to show that?
It's got to make sense. So if you go to a lender and say, I'm doing, let's say you were going from a single family house to a duplex, they're probably going to be a little suspicious of that, saying, all right, it's an investment property. We understand what you're doing here. If you go from, hey, we have a duplex, you know what? We're trying to get out of this duplex.
And we want to
go to a single family house. They don't bat an eye at it once. So it's got to make sense. I'm not, don't lie to them. Our true plan is that we are, living between the two. So technically we're spending a lot of time there, spending a lot of time here. So technically is, technically our primary.
But here's the other thing I'd say is, I think so many people are conditioned to just like bow down to the banks.
Very much so.
And two, from a risk standpoint, they want good loans. And so the better loan they give you, the less risk they have, right? Like now you're in a better financial position. You're getting extra cash flow. You have another asset. You're in a better financial situation with the way they constructed that loan versus like, now you're not doing that. We're making you pay an extra percent or we're not going to do this. Bring 20% to closing. Now you're kind of bent over. Yeah.
Now, to go back a little bit. So as I said, with the first house, we put 20% down with the help of my fiance's, now wife's family. And we were able to, the same company that we financed our second house with, went to them for a second mortgage, say, hey, we want to get them paid back. I don't like owing people money, especially family. Even though they're great, they wouldn't say anything about it.
Totally.
I just don't like it.
Wise.
So I went to them and they're like, oh yeah, we can do 100% financing. We'll put a second mortgage on here and we can go up to whatever it is you need to pay them back.
Okay.
Great. So they did it and it's on, it's a 5-year second mortgage. well, I'll have it paid off in probably 3 years less with how much we're making payments on it. So I was able to pay them back. I've technically got 2 mortgages on each house, but I'm still
The cash
flow is
crazy.
way over what my mortgages are.
Sure.
What's been the biggest or obstacle or challenge that you've had with this Airbnb?
Sometimes it's trying to balance handling the requests with the questions and things like that. Because I'll be at work and my phone just goes off because I get message updates and things like that. So I'm trying to do my own work. Don't tell my work this. Do my own work plus take a break and say, hey, I've got to respond to this person. I want to be proactive.
Because it's money. It's like money on your phone.
Exactly. It's constant. Very easy with the technology. I'm able to respond within 5 minutes, if not less. And people love that. I mean, if you are ultra responsive, they love that. I mean, if you take, they message you at 8 o'clock in the morning, you don't get back till 8 o'clock at night. As any business, that people don't like that.
Yeah.
So if you can be ultra responsive, which this type of process makes it very easy for you to be ultra responsive. So that's been kind of the headache because people will ask just ridiculous questions.
Give me an example. Craziest questions. I don't have a clue what this could be.
I'm trying to think. People ask, I don't want to rent your house. I just want to rent it for about an hour.
Okay.
It's like no. People ask people who maybe not have stayed in Airbnb before, they're like, do we have to bring our own blankets? Do we need our own pillows? Do we need this stuff?
Cabin?
It's like, no, it's fully furnished. You're going to have everything. Bring your food, bring whatever you want, but that's all you need to bring. The greatest that I loved actually was we actually had somebody do a wedding ceremony at our downstairs.
No way.
Swear to God.
Wow.
A wedding ceremony. They're like, hey, we just want a space that we can do a quick ceremony with family and friends and then have like a little reception down there. And they're like, we'll do the 2-day booking because we'll come in Friday night, stay Saturday night afterwards.
Wow.
And they were it was so crazy. They were like in their full wedding dress, full tux, doing pictures outside and all this stuff.
Wow.
It was just super cool.
So do you have a minimum of you have to stay 2 days?
2 nights.
Okay.
So
2 nights.
2 nights. I don't like to do 1 night.
Yeah.
Mostly because I still have to pay my cleaning lady to come.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you're going to pay for that, but the time and the money is just not as much. 2 nights is like perfect, makes it worth my time to switch all the sheets, do laundry, take the time to clean the place and do that. So for money wise, I always do 2 nights. I have a lot of people that ask for 1 night. And I'll straight up come back to say that's fine, but it's going to be more money. It's got to be worth the money for me to do it. Most people don't like that because it ends up being more than staying at a hotel. Yeah. So typically I don't.
What's your rate, like average?
For the new house, weekends were about $375 a night.
Okay.
But it's a much bigger place.
We can house up to 16 people.
Yeah.
I got beds for 13 to sleep in, then couches, air mattresses, whatever. The other house we are at about 200 a night, 4 beds, sleep up to about 10. Between the beds I can sleep 8, and then couches, air mattresses, I say another 10. I've had up to 12 down there before, but it gets kind of tight.
Does it get loud upstairs? Is that annoying?
We've only had a couple times, when people come home drunk from the bars, slamming doors, things like that. That's really the only thing that we've heard because it's an older house, so it bangs and it almost shakes the house.
Yeah.
So
did you ever give a bad review on people?
Great question. I've never given a bad review. Have I wanted to? Yes.
There's some sort of like psychology about all that.
Yeah. Unless you really do bad, I won't.
You're giving them the benefit.
I'm getting the benefit of the doubt.
What made you want to?
Great example was I had to make my first claim this last month. I've in almost 2 years, I've yet to make a claim.
That's amazing.
That was my first one. It's for $100.
Sure.
So I was a little frustrated. We came in and there was just, typically with Airbnb, you need to respect it like it's your own house. And so there was stuff everywhere, wrappers, water bottles, an apple with a bite taken out of it just sitting on the nightstand, an apple found underneath one of the beds, just weird stuff. They were there for 3 nights. They filled my trash can. I don't know if they had like a wedding party there or what. They filled the trash can. and furniture was moved and things like that. And so we're starting to put the house back together, and my couch wasn't where it was sitting. I'm like, why would they move this couch? Whatever. Okay. So I started pushing it back. There's a stain on the carpet. They had made what I think is curry, something had that yellowish color to it, and a stain. Somebody had gotten sick in one of the bedrooms on the side.
Wow.
They didn't clean it up.
Okay.
So that for me was just like, it was just more disrespectful than anything else. Yeah. So I put a claim in and said, I told her up front, like, hey, this is what happened. The house is in pretty bad shape, blah, blah, blah. Well, she had booked it for her family. Family's telling her, oh, we left it in great shape. We cleaned everything. We cleaned everything besides just not vacuuming. And I'm like, no, that's not true. So I said, you can still give your family the benefit of the doubt. I just want to pay for the carpet cleaning and a new set of sheets. So I didn't go overboard. I said, here's $100. Will you pay
Airbnb then goes after the person that rented it for that money.
Yeah. So actually the way that works is I put in the claim. They have the ability to accept it. If that person says, all right, I own it. All right, I'll pay that. It's done and over with. I get my money. If they deny it, then I send pictures. There's investigation. It goes through all that stuff. Gotcha. So luckily she said, yep, go ahead. I understand. I'm not going to, I just got married. Yeah. I'm not going to, fight with my family. That's fine. And, family's telling me, oh, you should eat them up on Airbnb. I'm like, I'm just not going to leave any review. I just didn't feel right about it.
Especially because it might not even been her.
Exactly. She just got married. It's like, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. So that's the worst thing, is just sometimes coming in and seeing how somebody's trash the house.
Sure.
But if you look back if you have full-time renters, they could do the same thing.
And you wouldn't know it for 2 years.
You would know it for 6 months to a year, and things get past repair.
What would you tell our listeners? What would be like your words of advice or your encouragement for those who are kind of thinking about looking over this cliff of rentals and Airbnb?
Just be ultra respectful and responsive to people. This what you're doing is you're technically in like a customer service role. You're taking care of. You're like a hotel. And it is going to be more work. It is going to be frustrating. People are going to, leave cigarette butts outside sometimes. People are going to do things that you're like, wow, that's really super. Yeah, why would you do that? But you have to think of the fact that, okay, not everybody's like you. Not everybody's going to be respectful. Not everybody's going to keep the same way as you are. That's part of running this business is you have got to be understanding of things that are going to happen, and then you deal with them and you move on. So that's number one is you have to be a people person. In a relationship, me and Kenzie, I am she's the sweetest girl in the world, but I'm the person that deals with everything. I'm the one that deals with the customers. I deal with the questions. Because, she just gets stressed. She's planning a wedding, do all this stuff. She had to deal with Airbnb as well. Yeah. I think it would be awful. So I deal with it all. And I think, if you are in that, you have to be that type of person that can handle that stress. A little
thicker skin.
Yeah, thicker skin, be able to handle the stress of, all right, I got this Airbnb, I got my own stuff going on, I've got this, because it is different than a normal rental property. If we had a full-time renter in there right now, I wouldn't be dealing with it at all. But there's stuff that's like, hey, I had a booking come in last night for yesterday. So they, you've got to be like, oh, okay, I got to go over the house, make sure everything looks okay. Get them instructions, forget the keys. Plus I'm doing I got my own stuff I'm dealing with. So there's a little bit more time in there, but the money, I made $1,200 for 3 days. Okay.
I'm going to go over there.
Okay. I can do this.
Yeah. Dang it.
Yeah. Exactly. Shoot. I didn't, so you also think that, money doesn't rule everything, but okay, I'm putting a couple extra hours in, and I'm going to make $1,200. Like, all right, you put through it. You put through you put through a lot more in your own jobs than you do with Airbnb. Your own jobs are a lot more stressful. A lot more stressful than what this is.
So many people say that, like, I couldn't do that with real estate, or it's so much work. It's like, how much work are you doing right now? The one thing I wanted to hit on too is kind of the Kinsey thing, but also we call it like family economics, where so many people are looking at different ways to make money, and you've got this guy, your future father-in-law, who's got this idea. What's it been like as, entering into their family still? You're not married, but what's it been like for you and Kinsey in that relationship of just learning about another way to make money and kind of mastering that together?
Yeah, it's been super great, especially when, we're on the same level. Definitely, if you're going to get into this, you need somebody who's going to be on board.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, in my opinion, you can't do this and think that, oh, I can do it. And maybe she doesn't like it, but she'll get over it. Any little time that you have a problem, that person's going to be upset about it because they're not on board with it. As soon as they get on board, something comes up. Okay, whatever, we'll deal with it, because she wants to do it just as badly as you do.
Sure.
And then growing this is really brought, like, me and her parents, we have a great relationship. It's brought us even closer. I'll sit down with her dad and we'll talk about, what'd you do with this week in Airbnb? What have you been doing differently?
Cool.
What have you found? What events are coming up? Like, he may get a booking for such and such event that we didn't know was going on in Des Moines. And I'll be like, oh, well, that's coming up. Okay. Well, maybe I need to, watch my pricing a little bit and do that. So, they've helped us out with our properties.
Sure.
We've in turn helped out with them. And it's been just a super growing thing. And sometimes we don't always agree on the things that he may do or that him and his wife may do. And so we do it differently.
Yeah,
they don't have to do everything the same.
Sure.
Like we talked about before, find out what works for you and go do it. Not everything's going to be right for you. Maybe investment in properties isn't right for you.
Right.
Doesn't mean some other type of investment that you guys are covering on the show isn't going to help them or make them want to do it. So figure out what's going to work for you and what you guys can grow together.
How do our listeners get a hold of you, and how do they look at your properties?
Yeah, definitely can go on Airbnb, as well as I put them up on Facebook. Brett Appleton, look for Des Moines, and I've got our properties up there. So there's technically you'll see 3 listings. So we do our current house that we live in. We do the downstairs, plus we do the whole house. So there's times that we'll rent the whole house, even our own stuff, and we stay at the new house.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have the new house listing.
Nice.
So there's a total of 3 listings that they can book, and they can find me on there. I don't do Instagram. I don't do any of that stuff. So, so definitely you can look us up, look at our properties. We, like I said, love having new people, love hosting. We have different events, from weddings to family get-togethers to, sadly, funerals. Had a family book last minute because, a family member had somebody pass away and they're coming to town, And so if you can be, always being, very sympathetic and things like that. If you can have something that's very nice, that's comforting, that feels like home when they're not at home, is nice, which I love doing. So it's a great feeling. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your wisdom. I think a lot of people will get a lot of good stuff out of this. And I think even push people towards let's try it. What's the worst that can happen?
When you look at real estate and the different ways to monetize real estate, I think this Airbnb mechanism is the safest and easiest way to kind of tiptoe into owning real estate.
Very much so. Like I said, I'm able to maintain my property, and I may have it for 2-3 years, and it's going to be in better shape than if I had a full-time renter in there for 2-3 years, because of the fact that any small issue is able to get fixed right away.
Right.
Whereas some people that let properties go, and then those things could have been a very easy fix, turns into a large fix.
Sure.
So that for me has been a big part.
Yeah. Super huge wealth of information. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Brett.
You've been listening to the Uncommon Life Project. I am your host, Phillip Ramsey.
And I'm Bryan Dewhurst.
We are with the Uncommon Wealth Partners. If you have any questions, please reach out to us via an email at phillip@uncommonwealth.com or Bryan at Bryan, Bryan, the correct way to spell it.
Thank you.
At uncommonwealth.com. We are here for you. We're encouraging you guys, take control of your finances and really be uncommon. Thanks again, Brett.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Brett.
guys.
Bye.
That's all for this episode of the Uncommon Life Project, brought to you by Uncommon Wealth Partners. Be sure to visit uncommonwealth.com to learn more about our services. Don't miss an episode as we introduce you to inspiring people who are actively pursuing an uncommon life.